Hi there, it's Jen again. I am a physician and a fellow depression sufferer, as you know, and today very tired and a little bit out of it, but I have a different bird than I did last time I tried to record this video, and she's going to be much quieter. And I'd like to talk with you today about 10 things that may be holding back your progress with your depression. And so I'd love it if you could get out a little notebook and kind of work through these, and we can kind of go through these together. I'm going to be putting a handout in the description below for you that you can go through. How you doing today? Yeah? I see. Well, thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of your time with me. I appreciate that. Well, let's dive right in. I don't want to keep you too long. May I have this hand, please? How about you sit on this? Yeah, because that'll make some good sound. You'll make some good tapping sounds, right? So nice tapping, grinding, other things like that. And I will help them with, we'll talk about depression. And it's going to be good. And this time, there's no loud screaming lovebird to get us in trouble. So, alright, so these are called thinking errors. And that's not to say that any of these things, that you're bad if you think these things, or your depression is your fault. And it's not to say that they are 100% wrong or right 100% of the time. It's just to say that these are things that, so we've talked about CBT before, right? CBT being one of the only psychological techniques, or not only, but one of the psychological techniques that's been best studied for depression. Unlike psychoanalysis, which is the Freudian theory, CBT actually has good randomized controlled trials behind it that you can use to kind of confirm and kind of that's it's been compared to medication, and it's been about equal to medication, which is pretty impressive. And in fact, so the recommendation, the official clinical recommendation, is to try to get patients, if they come to a primary care person or a generalist like myself, is to try to get them to a therapist for CBT, and to try to get them on a medication, and the two together being more effective than one by themselves is the idea. But so CBT is really evidence-based, and one of the things that CBT does is try to look at thought patterns that can be not helping you get better, basically. And there's 10 really, really common basic ones that you can actually use to help identify all of your thought patterns. So what I'd like you to do is go through your notebook. And just write out, like when you're in distress, just write out some of these stressful thoughts and feelings that you have, right? And as you're writing those out, I think you'll find if you take this handout also and put it next to it, you'll be able to circle some of the things that you wrote that fit these thinking errors. And then what you'll do is you'll be able to answer them on the next page. For example, if you have the mind-reading thinking error on the next page, you can write, well, I actually don't know if the person thinks that because I didn't ask them, and I'm not a mind reader, right? And by answering those things, you can kind of put to bed some of these thoughts, right? So, how does this work on a biological level? So on a biological level, your beautiful little brain works by making connections between neurons. A thought happens when a neuron sends one electrical signal to the other neuron. Neurons that are not used will release a little death chemical that basically says, kill me, kill me. Neurons that are used will turn off that death chemical and will instead turn on a chemical that says, remember me, right? So you can see how if you're thinking a certain way for a certain period of time, that thought can become plasticized. The more you think that thought, the more permanent it is in your brain, right? And that's where you get into some of these cycles, these depression cycles, and you can't get out of these, difficult thoughts that you're in. And that's unfortunate. That's no fun. So my goal with helping you go through some of these thinking errors is to kind of help you. Oh man, I'm turning red and different colors again. This new camera. So my goal with helping you go through these different thinking errors is to kind of help you kill off the bad neurons and keep the good ones, basically. And that doesn't mean that you can't be realistic about it, right? Like, you might have a thought, but let's go through them and we'll talk about why they're not realistic. Okay. So the first common thinking error that I want you to think about is called all or nothing thinking. It's like if your performance falls short of perfect, then you are a failure, right? It's all or nothing. I didn't do well in this job interview for this computer science position, therefore I must be a terrible computer scientist, right? Or if you are a student, right? I didn't do well on that test. Why do you keep pooing on me? You are a failure in all you do because of this one poo. Right? That's not realistic. She's wonderful in a lot of the things she does. Like the lovely little sound she's making on the mic for you right now. She's a good ASMR bird. Mango, who I recorded this video with yesterday, gave me 5 hours of editing to do that then didn't matter because my codec couldn't handle that amount of cheeps taken out. So we can't have everything we want. What am I gonna do with this poo on me though? Mango didn't poo on me. Yeah. Just don't poo on my mic, okay? So that's all or nothing thinking. So circle on after you've written out your distressing feelings, circle that on your mic, on your mic. I'm so worried about my mic. Don't poo on my stuff. Don't poo on my mic now. Okay. So, ow! Are you okay? Oh, did your little foot get kind of stuck? Why don't you stand on that? That way your little foot won't get stuck. Okay. Alright, so overgeneralization is another one. This is where a single romantic event, a single negative event like a romantic rejection or a career reversal is seen as a never-ending pattern of defeat. So where it's like always or never. So, he says, no, he doesn't want to go on a date with you. And then your response is, becomes, no men like me, I'm ugly. I always get rejected. First off, you can't say anything about always because you don't know anything about the future. And you probably can't even say that 100% of the time about your past. And you probably haven't even asked 100% of people. What you can say is that this particular person doesn't want to be with you. And that may be a tough break, but that's the only truth you can actually say about it. You can't be making up these always and nevers. I will tell you that absolutes are incorrect 99% of the time. I will not say that absolutes are never correct, or that they're always false, because that would be something, again, that's an absolute. I can't prove that. I haven't seen every single absolute. And because I haven't seen every single absolute, I can't prove that every absolute is going to be false. But that's the problem with most absolutes. Anytime you say always or never, it's like you're pretending you're this omniscient God being that's seen everything in that category. And the fact is you're not. So, no, you don't always have such or such happen, and you don't never have such and such happen because you haven't had all of the possible experiences in those categories. And so you gotta break down that when your brain is trying to hurt you in that way. You gotta break it down. Okay, you gotta say, no, that's not correct. Mental filter is another one. This is where a single negative detail, you pick it out and focus on it exclusively. I do this, right? Where I might get, 30 comments about how beautiful I am, and then I get 2 that say, I have had only 2 in an entire year. I've had 2 comments that said I was not good looking. And those are the ones I remember. I don't remember the other ones, right? That is it's like all reality, like a drop of ink discolors a beaker of water. I don't care very much whether or not you people think I'm good looking, because my husband is the one whose approval I actually need in that regard. But it is still how my brain works. Like, it stands out to me. It's like, oh yeah, people on the internet think I'm really ugly. The evidence I have for that is actually very slim. It's 2 comments out of hundreds of comments that you people have left. So, that's a very mild example, right? A more severe example is based on a couple of deaths that I have seen. I am afraid as if every single serious illness or something is going to result in a death, which is not the case. The vast majority of the people that I have, seen have not died. But there's still that fear, right? It just is what it is. Another one, and so of course that's illogical, right? And so you got to write it out to remind yourself what reality is. You got to remind yourself what is real. So another one is discounting the positive. That's pretty much along the same lines, but it's slightly different because here, instead of just seeing only the negative stuff, you actually go ahead and discount the positive stuff. You go out of your way to say that a positive experience doesn't count, right? For example, you might, if you do a good job, you might tell yourself that, well, it wasn't good enough, or anyone could have done just as well, right? And it takes a lot of the joy out of life if you do that to yourself. It's kind of like, why are you doing that to yourself? My 2 favorites, right? I think probably the worst ones to experience are the jumping to conclusions ones. One of them is mind reading. It is where, and you guys do it a lot. You guys, in fact, that's the most common one that I see in the comments when you guys are talking about your unhappiness. And I don't want to say you guys because I want to talk about you specifically, right? You are special, even though I can't give you personal medical advice because, there's rules about that kind of stuff. For diagnosis or treatment of anything. Of course, here in our secret little whispery place, we can get better any way we want. No one can stop us. But of course, out there in meat space, I am not your physician. I'm not able to claim, liability for you, and you may have special circumstances that I don't know about. So it would be, dangerous for you to take anything that I say wholeheartedly as, personalized medical advice. But I see, and I try to caveat that with you guys, try to give you general information when we're in the comments. But one pretty significant, significant issue with the mind reading is I'll see you guys say, well, nobody likes me. Honey, you haven't met all of everybody. Again, you're not an omniscient God being. I am 99.999% sure that you have not met 100% of people. And I can also guarantee that out person has thought of you out of the people you've met. You've maybe met in a human brain in their lifetime could maybe really know 3,000 people. It's crazy that we're getting to the upper limit, the subscribers on this channel, right? We're getting to the upper limit of the number of people that I could ever actually know, really know in a lifetime. And I'm so honored that you spend your time here. Other people don't see you guys as a lot, or they think that it's not special, but to me it's like you guys are so much more than a number. So it's not like there's 2 million, I don't have 2 million and 2 million is bigger than 2,000. It's like, dude, do you realize you can't even really know 3,000 people in your life? And we're already like 2,300 people here in this room. That is crazy. You couldn't even, the number of people who are going to be here with me and see this. You're not alone. I mean, you're feeling, and these are by and large depressed people. A lot of you have been abused. A lot of you are suicidal. It's depressed people that you are, and you're all here together. You're not alone. And it might be worthwhile for you to look through the comments of my first depression video and just say to each other, hey, you're not alone, I have this too. Hey, you're not alone, I have this too. There are so many of you lonely people just like me, right? And we've been made fun of by that before. There have been haters who've been like, what? You got lonely people up in here, and it's like, or oh, you have people who want to kill themselves, that's the bubble. And it's like, yeah, there are more of us than there are of you, dummy. So all that to say, you haven't met 3,000 people probably even yet, and you don't know what all those people think of you. You haven't met all people. You haven't met all the people that I have here. I guarantee you some of these people would like you. You just have to be patient, okay? You gotta be patient with yourselves and other people, and you just can't read minds. It could be that you might have some social skills that need to be worked on. That's fine, so do we all. I'll talk to you at some point what it's like to have some of the other diagnoses that I have beyond MDD, because that's not my only mental illness that I've been diagnosed with. And some far less popular ones. I have a kind of unusual one, and I do want to talk with you guys about it at some point. And you'll find, social skills is a complicated topic for a lot of us. Oh no, I forgot to put the makeup on my chin. That makes me look less fat. It's okay. It's all lies. You can be beautiful and overweight. I know I am. But still, I want to project a healthy image. Help you guys be healthy too. And I'm vain. Alright, so fortune telling is another one. It's where you predict things will turn out badly, and you're convinced your prediction is an already established fact, which is silly because you can't know that. You're not a fortune teller either. And a lot of times we'll combine these. We'll use a generalization. We'll say things always go badly for me, therefore they're going to go badly in the future. Even if that were true, even if things in your past have gone badly for you 100% of the time. And I understand feeling like that. Look, 100% of the rape patients that I took care of, their rapists will not get any justice. And that's over several years. That's not just during my time as a sexual assault medical forensic examiner, because that was just a year. That's during the years that led up to me wanting to become that, wanting to get that qualification, because I had so many female patients that this horrible stuff happened to. And it's not just females. I have had male patients as well. And it's like, and no justice. That doesn't mean that the next one won't get justice, okay? So even if something has been true historically, even if it always has been true for you. And you know, I can't say that those people won't get justice one day, right? The people that I took care of, I can't say that one of them might not file unrestricted one day, or that there's a special database in the military as well, where if you file unrestricted, you can also just file the person's name in case someone else files unrestricted about them, and then if a second hit comes up, then that information can be piled on and that person can then be convicted because they've had multiple. That's if you don't want to file unrestricted. You want to keep it secret because of shame, or you're afraid the person's going to retaliate and kill you or something like that, which is a common fear, a common threat. You know, it could be that one of them gets justice in the future, right? You know, that being kicked a lot by life, right? It can make you very pessimistic about what's going to be in the future. But the fact is that we can't read minds. We can't read minds, can we? We can't read minds, right? So, another one is going to be your should statements. And actually, I'm going to stop here because I really do want you to take the time and go through these yourself. So I want you to go through your handout and I want you to think about these some more. Okay. The number 7, I think, is obvious. It's going to be obvious to you why that's not real. Number 6 is kind of a repeat of the other ones. We'll go into I will mention labeling. You need to rewatch my video on how I can prove that you're not worthless, right? Because I can prove it no matter what you've done or who you are or what's been done to you, okay? I can prove that you're not worthless. And labeling is when you, instead of saying like I made a mistake, you say I am a loser, or I am worthless, or I am this, or I am that. People who've been assaulted or who've had many, so there is a pattern where sometimes people who've been assaulted will later on, as a result, especially if they were assaulted as children, will have such a dramatic change occur in the biochemistry of their brain that they will then start to engage in a lot of really dangerous sexual behaviors that put them at risk, right? They might have multiple sexual partners. They might be very unprotected, things like this, things that, wouldn't be normally safe or healthy. But a lot of times people who've been abused as children, because that's the only positive feedback they ever got. The only time someone ever said good girl or good boy was when they were being abused. That really messes with your head. And so they'll get into these really bad patterns. If you're in that kind of pattern, even if, it can be kind of, I don't want to, the term sex addiction gets thrown around in very silly ways as excuses for things. But in this case, I am talking about like where the way your dopamine works in your brain is really messed up. And then you can have a cycle of self-hate, right? You can have a cycle of self-hate where you only feel happy when you're being used a certain way, because of this cycle, right? You become unhappy, and a thing that people will say negatively to themselves is something like, "I'm a whore, I'm a slut, I'm a this, I'm a that," and instead of that kind of labeling, it's so much healthier to say, "I am say what is the truth, right? I am struggling with decisions that I don't like. I am making decisions sometimes that don't actually make me happy, or I am doing things that I know are not so safe." But instead of labeling and then the negative self-talk, I am a whore, why did I do that? I'm a loser, I'm a stupid, right? Those are not helpful, right? Even better way to put it is, I am working on getting my brain back to where it needs to be, right? And then maybe I'm going to get help with this. I think that's the benefit of, I think all primary care care physicians should be trained in mental health and sexual assault, because primary care physicians or generalists are so well positioned to be able to help you with something like that, because we can also order labs. And I had a patient who, because of it's a very unusual situation, but I had a patient who was about 30 years old, who had a severe mental disability, not a mental disorder, mental disability, where so what would be measured, and IQ is a very stupid measure of intelligence, but what would be measured as a low that, and some brain damage, right? So she had, and she seemed to have some pretty significant amygdala dysfunction, where she was very, she was like always hungry, and also always, always kind of sexually upregulated. And there was a lot of fear that she was going to get kidnapped, because she would get in strangers' cars and things like that, for sex, right? And she herself was afraid of being kidnapped, but she would kind of black out when she went off and had these encounters, and she'd have maybe 30 in a month, which is so dangerous for your disease transmission, not to mention things like wear and tear, and things like of course kidnapping was the number one concern, because a lot of times folks with mental disabilities are targeted for kidnapping. And of course her mother was there with me, but one of the things her mother said was thank you so much for talking to her instead of talking to me. People always treat her like she's not a person because she has a mental disability. But it was really important to me, because I have siblings with mental disabilities, to talk to the patient as a woman, because maybe she can't understand everything, but I can at least try to get a feel for what she understands. And as we were understanding this, and again, this is a very complicated scenario, right? But the point in the scenario was not to find a way to judge the decisions, but to find a way to help her, right? And one of the things that both she and the mother expressed to wanting was something that could perhaps downregulate her libido, so that she didn't, wasn't in danger like this. And that would help her. And there's actually birth control that has that as a side effect. Plus, that would protect her, because it would be pretty dangerous for her to get pregnant. And there's psychiatric medication that has that as a side effect, right? So all that to say, the human is a complex whole. The human is a whole thing, right? Your neurotransmitters, your hormones, things like your birth control, things like your infectious history, things like stuff that's happened to you, they all play together, and you are a complete person. And so the things that happen to you and the decisions that you make, yes, they're yours and they're your responsibility, but at the same time they don't define who you are, because there's so much else going on. So no, you're not a loser, you're not a whore, you're not a hypocrite, you're a human being who is working on traits that you would like to change to help you have a healthier, safer, and happier life, right? And that's not to say that everybody who experiences certain things has a certain health history, okay? I'm not saying that. But I'm just giving examples of kind of, again, a little bit more extreme examples of ways that you can see that it would be really ridiculous to be hateful, right, towards this, sweet disabled woman. It would also be, and I mean intellectually disabled. It's a little different. So treat, as you would want to treat her with kindness, so you should also treat the weird neurotransmitters in your brain with kindness. And so, labeling is useless. And then one more I want to touch on real quick, the should statements. Best way to deal with the should statements as you're answering them is answer them with future statements, right? This should have happened this way. Yeah, but it didn't. And maybe it was horrible what happened. But you're only hurting yourself by living in that should where it happened. Instead, live in this this is what's going to happen. This is what I am going to do about it. And if there's nothing you can do about it, you may think there's nothing you can do about it, but it could be that there is. It could be as simple as I'm going to write a song. It could be as complex as I'm going to get on a support forum and help other people who have this. I was looking through my files and I wrote I guess it was back when my patient care was slowing down because of this stupid health stuff that's been going on, both physical and mental, right? I found a song I wrote it was very angry and violent, but it was about taking revenge on these things that have made me sick, and how a way that I'm going to take revenge is I'm going to make sure that other people don't have this. And that's actually one of the reasons I became a doctor, was out of revenge. It was after seeing things that happened to people in my family who had illnesses. I was like, well, F disease. I'm going to punish disease. I'm going to punish this for what it does. And similarly, I want to punish depression. So, think of your should. Think of what is your plan. What is your battle plan? What is your good, your next step? So try and take these and work on them, and let me know in the comments if you work on them, what you do and how it helps. No, you can't have my lips, but you can have my nose.